Hi there.
Hello everyone, welcome to another Flying Frog video. Here we have from Swissmilsim the DH100 Vampire. Now it appeared on the marketplace early September 2022 for $37.45 Australian, which is approximately $25 US. 24 euro and around about 18-19 pounds sterling. So what we're going to do is we're going to get in, have a look and see what Swissmilsim has got to offer. I've not had anything to do with them before. I haven't seen any of their aircraft or know anything about them. I can tell you that the DH100 Vampire was the second jet that was produced by the British. It was first conceived in 1941 but didn't fly until after the war. This particular one is the first single jet engined jet that was produced, and the very first to land on it, well, very first jet to land on an aircraft carrier. Now this is also, it does have a Goblin jet engine. I don't know much about it, but I do know that the airframe of this is made out of balsa or moulded plywood, which is the same as the Mosquito. So, modelling so far looks good. Now, Swissmil have brought us two variants. This particular one, which is a slightly longer nosed one with the fuel pods on the wings, and the other one is a shorter nosed original without any fuel pods on the wings. The liveries, there's 5 liveries. Most of them look the same, except for they just got different frame numbers or plane numbers. So generally it's all Swiss. So what we're going to do is, like I usually do, is hop on underneath and have a look at the modelling underneath, and also to the modelling of the aircraft itself. On the outside, so far, to me, it looks very good. Nice even grey, sort of a matte to semi-gloss coloration. The panel lines look fairly straight. I would have thought though there'd be rivet lines or something along here with all these panels, because I'm sure they just don't have lines straight like that, like they've been made out of mortar or cement. But anyway, we'll have a look at there. See, the detailing there is quite nice, and it does look fairly good. Now there is a little bit of weathering underneath here, as you can see, coming from the air intakes, which is fine. But this wheel looks brand spanking, or at least the tyre looks brand spanking new. Doesn't tend to suit the aircraft. However, I will say the wheel is at least looks round and not badly done. So what have we got up here? Fairly Spartan, nothing much to it. So, and it's fairly basic modelling on the landing strut. Right, so, okay. Let's just have a look a little bit closer in here. Okay, yep, I like the weathering there coming off the line. You know, that's a nice little touch. But on the whole too though, the airframe does look a little bit too clean. Now we don't have any writing on that wheel cover, but there is on this one over here. So let's come on over here and have a look. There you go, it's just the tyre pressures. Okay, no worries. Now what we're going to do is we're going to jump in a cockpit. Now this aircraft particularly has got some handling characteristics that are going to find some people who are jumping into this aircraft most unusual, and I will point them out in this very shortly. But as we can see, it just looks rather clean. So, excuse me. So what we're going to do, jump on into the cockpit and have a look at the cockpit. Or actually what we'll do first, let's just have a look at the resolution of these decals. Yeah, a little bit of jaggies when we get in this close. Bit of flaring there. So graphically not quite right. So I think they need to do a little bit of work on that. As we can see, that line there is just glitching around. So it just tells me that this model is not exactly stable and not 100% optimized. Again, here we go, we're getting some more glitching. Excuse me. I've got a frog in the throat. That was a bad joke, sorry. But look, while we get this close, it doesn't look great, but we come back here and she looks fine, but I still don't like that glitching. I think that we need to get that one fixed. Anyway, let's hop on into the cockpit and we shall have a look. As a matter of fact, before I go any further, we don't seem to have the glitching this side, and all in all, it looks like a freshly painted plastic model kit. That's what it looks like to me. Okay, here we are in the cockpit, and oh my god, what a difference between the outside and the inside. The inside looks like a bloody mess, to put it mildly. Little bit overhanded with the weathering compared to the outside. So there seems to be a lack of balance between the two in doing the modelling itself. Which also too, all this weathering and scuffing and everything else, to my eyes, just makes things a little more confusing of what's going on in here. It's overdone, I think. I get it, it's an old plane, and it is a really, really old plane. But the outside's not saying I'm old. The outside's saying, hey, I've been tarted up, done up, repainted, you know, or just come off the factory floor and just had a couple of fly-arounds. But this inside, oh, yeah. Anyway, now, I was saying about handling characteristics, and you'll get this, and a lot of people are not going to work this one out. The front wheel does not have any steering whatsoever. It is locked in position. Now, to steer it, you need to set up either some differential braking, or for those of you guys who are using the Xbox controller, is dab your brakes while you got whatever way you rudder you want to turn. So if you want to turn left, hold your left rudder all the way in, dab your brakes, and the nose will swing around. It's not the most ideal way of controlling the aircraft, but it has been modelled correctly. The original Vampire had a locked front wheel, and when they used to steer, they used to use the differential braking, dab the brake to the direction they wanted to go, and quite often you would see taxiing Vampires bobbing the nose, and that was them tabbing the brakes to go which way they wanted to go. But the other thing was that because of the brakes were operated off of air pressure, they had to make sure that they had plenty of air pressure in the brakes for it to steer. So kudos to Swissmilsim for putting that in. So anyway, apart from that, now another one for you guys who want to try and do cold dark starts. I sat in here for quite a while going, what the hell, how do I get this thing going? Because number one, you got switches down here, and because of all the weathering and so on, I found it a little bit harder with my old eyes. And but I've worked it out. Now, we do have a checklist up here which you can go by, but if you want to do cold dark starts with this one, there are a couple of things you're going to need to do, and I will explain it at the moment. So I'm not going to worry about going through the checklist at the moment. Okay, there has been some a little bit of systems depth modelled into this. So my first initial thoughts has changed a little bit on this aircraft, but I will explain more towards the end. So what we need to do, we need to call in our battery backup, basically. And if we look over here, he shall arrive. Click the fingers. There he is. So number one, we need the Jeep. So you need to map that to start, or at least to get your APU. Now, I only found this out because I went and downloaded the manual from Swissmilsim's website. There's a PDF there, and you go through it all, and it tells you how to do this for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, I have mapped this to my controller. Now, we also need to start the APU. So there we go, we've got a different noise now. Now, here we go. First off, over here behind the throttle, we have our fuel knob, so we need to put that on, and make sure you put your throttle back to 0. Alright, now, fuel pump this side, I think it's this one here. Yep, fuel pump. While we're here, we'll put that on. We come back over. Now this isn't in any particular order, and I'm not following the checklist. I just want to get it started, get it up in the air, and do the review. Okay. And then we click in here. Alright. And hit our starter button here for 2 seconds. Now if I've done everything right, we'll have a start. 1, 2. Here we go. Let's just get outside and listen. Rightio, so we have a start. That is a cold, dark start. Maybe not the most ideal way of doing it, but I've got it started, which is far more than what I was achieving this morning, I can tell you. So we've still got our Jeep there, so we can make him go away now because we're started. So go away, Jeep. There we go. I love it when people or things listen to what I have to say. Right, let's close the canopy down. And I love it, it's got quieter. That's fantastic. So what I'll do is I will show you a little bit of taxiing, so you get an idea of what I mean. Then I'll go up to the end of the runway and I'll come back to you guys for the takeoff. It's got some weight. She's heavy to get going. There we go. It's nice, gentle roll. Now, currently, I am moving the rudders, and we are not moving anywhere. Okay, so now I'll apply some left brake, and there we go. And you hear the brake go off as it's releasing the pressure. And this is how you steer with these things. Different, yes, but at least it is accurate to the actual aircraft itself. So it's not I initially thought it was a bug, but upon further investigation to find out that no, this is actual. Now when we go to take off, you don't need to worry about it, because once you get over a certain speed, your rudders will take effect anyway, so you don't need your differential braking. Oh, a little bit heavy there. So you see, it takes just a little bit of dabbing and not being on them too long. Anyway, I will see you at the end of the runway for our takeoff. Okay, here we are at the end of the runway. I'm not lined up perfectly on the centre line, but at this moment, that's unimportant. So, what we will do is I'll get going. I will do a stall test, obviously manoeuvrability, come back round and land. Now I did have, just while we get going, for the handbrake, just make sure that the flaps are up and my speed brakes are off, because they are all modelled as fully down and on when you come into the sim. Okay, so first stage flaps. Now I'm not sure where my trimming is. Let's have a look, see if it's going to tell me degrees. 33%, no way in the world do I want that. Okay. Let's start at 10, see how that goes. I've not set 10 before, so. Now, just a little bit of history for me with the DH100 Vampire. As some of you regular viewers are aware, that I used to fly radio controlled aircraft. My first EDF, which is an electric ducted fan, was the Hobby King DH100 Vampire. I painted up that Vampire red with a black swan on the nose, similar to the bird on this one that's on the front. That aircraft itself was based here at Royal Australian Air Force Base Pearce here in Western Australia, the wing, or the commander's, it was the commander's plane, the base commander's plane, and he had painted up as a bright red with a black swan on the nose. And if I can find some pictures, it's the gear coming up now, I'll post them in this one. So far all pretty steady. It was all easy, nice takeoff, as you can see, as you saw going down the runway. The rudders, it held its line very nicely. Now trimming wise, yeah, they're 10%, we're not bad. There we go. Let's just kick back, because I think there is engine damage modelled into this if you have run full throttle all the time. I could be wrong, but I think there is. And I know, which I'm not going to go into in this one, but there is also radio systems in here where you can actually set it up and land with no visibility. So, and I think that's actually been modelled into this as well. But viewing out, look at that, you know, you can see forever. So we can see for days. So the view out of this aircraft is very good. I like a little bit of scratching on the cockpit or on the canopy, which is not bad. So what I'm going to do is hop on out and let's do manoeuvrability. So let's get in behind the aircraft. Well, actually, look at that. It's steady. I'm outside. I've got my hands off the controls, and it's just flying steady. So we're coming in behind. Pretty standard. Sounds like a Vampire from memory. I grew up, there's a lot of people aware that my dad was in the Air Force, and so let's just give this one a flip. I need to put up my flaps. Let's try that one again. Let's just go trim. Alright. So, generally, not too bad. Probably very similar to that Carinato's PC-12. Now, I will gain some height, and we'll try out the stall. Now, at the Air Force Base Pierce, out the front, just behind the main gate when I was growing up, they'd moved it down the road a bit now. I used to have a static Vampire that used to be there, mounted up on a pedestal. So I got to see the Vampire nearly every day for 5 years, you know. So, rightio. Let's just bring back some throttle. Let's just see how she's going to handle stall. Now basically I think this won't have any nasty habits, because she's basically a flying wing with stabilisers, and my RC model of this aircraft would glide forever. You know, it was as stable as, and as a matter of fact, because it was an EDF foam aircraft, some people used to cut the tail off and the tail supports and just use it as a flying wing. So I'm just pulling back here, and there you go, she's mushing, and a gentle drop. All look at that. Okay. Ooh. And I don't know if I'm going to come out of this. Nope. Nope. Oh, come up, come up, come up, come up, come up. Oh, recovered. Woohoo! Wow, I really thought I was going in the drink. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll start heading back now for a landing and get some outside shots while I'm going along, and I'll come back to you guys when I'm lined up at the runway, because that one was scary. Okay, one other thing that has been modelled into this aircraft is some engine damage. So let me just change the position a little bit. And what I mean by that is that, and I will show you shortly, is, and I'll do an emergency landing, and I will just show you how well this aircraft actually goes. So basically is, I know that my landing field is off to the 9 o'clock, but if you rapidly move your throttles, it causes an engine fire. And there we go. We have now got an engine fire. So there you go, the engine's gone. So let's come in and put the end fire out. Right, that should be out. And I'll make my way over towards the runway. There we go. So the fire's out. Now, question is, am I going to make it to the runway from this far out? So I've had an engine fire. What's my airspeed? Just under 300 kilometers per hour. Should be okay. Should. As I said, these things, they can glide for a fair distance. However, I was surprised that its stall characteristic, that did catch me by surprise. However, not that a model aircraft is, there we go, there's our runway. Now, I'm doing a basically dead stick landing. So this is an emergency landing, so this is one shot only. Otherwise I'm going in. So currently I'm just going to leave my gear up for as long as I can. I've got first stage flaps at the moment. What's my airspeed? Around 250 thereabouts kilometers per hour, which is fine at this point in time. Let's just keep the nose there a little bit. Flight characteristics is very good. So I feel, you know, it's not a generic flying aircraft. Now I think I just need to slow down a little bit. So let's deploy the speed brakes. make sure they're up. Can't see it from that angle. Second stage flaps. Let's just have a look, make sure everything's okay. Yep, dead quiet. Right, down with the landing gear. And what's our airspeed? Yeah, not too bad. A little quick at the moment, but I just wanted to keep some energy up. And here we go. There we go, we're down. We're down nice and safe. So while we got some speed, we have got some rudder authority, and you can do some steering. And obviously when you're slow, you got to use your brakes. Now, because I've got no engine, my jet engine's gone, I'm going to just pull up on the runway, and then I'll just slew it over into position and give you my final thoughts. But there we go, we're down nice and safe, and I brought back the aircraft in one piece. So we'll see you over at parking bay 6 for my final thoughts. Okay, my final thoughts. We're not in parking bay 6 because some tree hugging hippie went and stole my parking spot. See? Tree hugger. Anyway, final thoughts from the, well, it's the DH100 Vampire from Swissmilsim Simulations. $37.45, 25 US, 25 euro, 19 pounds sterling. Is it worth the $37.45, or have Swissmilsim Simulations done enough for the $37.45? Initially, I thought no, and probably still on the fence on that one. This is an aircraft you do not jump in and just fly. There is a learning curve, and kudos to the developer for putting that into this aircraft. It's just, I think it's down, there's a few down points. I like the fact that they've kept, well, I'll go with the down points first. The down points is that the lack of liveries. They're just Swiss liveries, and I understand that it's a Swiss company that's developed this aircraft, and I understand that. However, I feel as though it would have appealed to a broader base of user, particularly when now you've come into Xbox as well as PC, that if we had different liveries from different nations throughout the world. After all, this aircraft was used pretty much by nearly every country throughout the world that flew or that had an air force in its time. The second point is it's a little bit confused between the neatness of the outside and the messiness of the cockpit on the inside. For me, and with my eyesight, and this is something that I think the world doesn't take into consideration of, there are some people that do have handicap, and they just went a little bit overboard with the weathering. When you compare it to the outside, you know, I think that they could have done a little bit more weathering on the outside and a little less on the inside. But that's my opinion. I think so. And apart from that, you know, there's the odd glitching here and there with the, some type of graphical glitching going on, which means that I would say it's not fully optimized for Xbox, and I would say that glitching will be there on PC, which means that the developer has still a little bit of work to do. But on the whole, I'm not totally disappointed with this one. Its true to nature characteristics of flight was very good, whilst the stall test took me completely by surprise. I felt that the Vampire is probably a little bit more stable than what it was, because of the flying wing concept. But I could be wrong. I've never flown a Vampire, so what would I know? I've only flown a model, and models are designed to fly well. Otherwise, what's the point? If you got a badly flying model and it keeps crashing all the time. So, what it boils down to is, have Swissmilsim Simulations done enough for my $37.45? Probably not. Whilst my opinion on this aircraft has changed from when I first flew it, when I got it on Friday, I still feel as though there are things that aren't quite up to standard. And for us on Xbox as well, like having to call in the Jeep for the APU, for the extra power, things like that, wasn't necessarily easily explained. And developers have got to realise that we on Xbox don't get manuals when we purchase the aircraft. We do not get downloadable manuals. We've got to physically go somewhere and find it if it's available, where when you download it on a PC, it's in that folder somewhere, probably in the community folder. So, I think that developers have got to realise that for us Xbox. And I think maybe implementing a switch on the dash to call the Jeep that's got the power pack, and also too is not having to worry about, once the Jeep's there, everything's all ready to go. We don't need to then do the second stage power up with the Jeep, just so we can get this jet running. But apart from that, I've enjoyed my flight. Would I fly this again? Yeah, I think I will. I won't be flying it often. I'm not a huge jet fan. I mean, there's a few jets that I like. I like the L39 by Asobo. I've flown that one quite a lot. I've got the Mackie 339, MB339. I love that one too. But I still don't fly them as often. So, on that note, please like, comment, subscribe. We can talk about this aircraft on my Discord, so the link will be in the description below. I noticed though that this one did have a fairly lowish score in ratings, and I think that the lack of explanation, I think, has hurt this aircraft, because I feel as though it is around about a 3.8, 3.9, maybe a 4, but that's pushing, and I just think that the developer just needs to, make things a little bit more obvious for us dummies on Xbox. Well, we're not really dummies, we're the smart people. No, joking aside. So yeah, look, I'm dribbling on now. So anyway, everyone, please stay safe.